Hi guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to a game of Fangs and Thrones. Now today, as you can probably tell, it is the February wrap-up and I read a total of 8 books, 7 on paperback physical, 1 audio, no not audio, sorry, 1 Kindle. So the first 5 I read are all part of a series. These are them here. So it is the first 5 books of A Game of Thrones. As you know, my channel, A Game of Fangs and Thrones, is inspired by this series. So these are actually a reread. So we have book 1, which is A Game of Thrones. Book 2, A Clash of Kings. Book 3, Part 1, A Storm of Swords, Steel and Snow. Book 3, Part 2, which is A Storm of Swords, Blood and Gold. And then technically it's book 4, but the 5th is a book 4, which is A Feast for Crows. Now, I'm not going to talk too much in depth about them because obviously they are sequels, and I can't go into detail with book 2 without spoiling what happens in book 1. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the series. So in Game of Thrones, we follow a range of different characters. We follow the Starks, who are from the north, Northern Pride. The Baratheons, who are currently ruling Westeros, which is where this is set. The Lannisters. Now Cersei Lannister is the queen and she's married to Robert Baratheon. The Lannister kid, Cersei and Robert's kids feature, but they don't technically have their own POV. We follow the Lannisters, Tyrion, the dwarf, and then we also follow Dany or Daenerys, who is the last surviving heir of the previous ruler. So basically what happened was Robert has stormed King's Landing, where the ruling houses sit, which were the Targaryens. They have dragons. So Robert and Jaime Lannister and Ned Stark got together and decided to storm the castle at King's Landing and massacre everybody who was a Targaryen, except for three survivors: Viserys, Dany, and their mother. Although their mother did die giving birth to Dany, so she's not really present in the story. So we follow them, and the story starts when John Arryn, well, I would class it as it starts when John Arryn, who was Robert's old hand of the king, his old advisor, is murdered, or he dies, I should say. And Robert journeys north to Winterfell, where the Starks are based, to ask his old friend to ask his old friend Ned or Nedded to become the hand of the king, to become his advisor, his hand. Ned doesn't want to leave because obviously Winterfell is the last defence against the wildlings in the north, who are based on the Celts, which is very unfair. So yeah, there's that. And obviously in the first book, I did rate this 4 stars, but I forgot how slow it is. Most of the first half is pretty much, I mean, if you've seen the show, you know that Ned dies pretty early on in the show, but he doesn't actually die until quite late on in this book. It's not info dumpy, but it's very politically driven. I'd say it's more character driven than plot. But I just have to say, I really don't like book Sansa. I know she sort of develops and grows in the TV show, but I just feel like in the books she got a bit of a bum ride, because Arya is younger and is on her own exploring Bravos. There's Cersei, who is queen in all but name. She pretty much runs King's Landing. Lisa has a bit of a screw loose, but she's still strong. Lisa Arryn, which is Sansa's aunt. Then we have Catelyn Tully, or Catelyn Stark, or Catelyn, depending on how you want to say it, who literally comes back from the dead. And then we have Sansa. The scenes between Sansa and Peter Littlefinger, as the series progresses, really make me uncomfortable. He's plotting and scheming, and he's just no. But anyway, books 1, 2, part 1 and 2, and 4 all got 4 stars. Clash of Kings got 5 stars for some reason. I'm not sure why, but that's what it came out on Compiled. Compiled is a rating system created by G at Book Roast, and it stands for character, atmosphere, writing, plot, intrigue, logic, and enjoyment. I think there was just something about this one that I enjoyed a little bit more than the others. I think it's probably because this sets everything up, and this takes that and runs with it setting up, and it sets everything else in motion a lot more. And I think because we see a lot more of the character development, and we see some of my personal favourites in this one as well, it just enjoyed it a little bit better. Didn't enjoy Feast of Crows so much, but it still came out with 4 star. I think it's because there's no Dany. It's very King's Landing based, with a little bit of Sansa and Peter, who I don't like. So that's that one. Then a little apology. I did a deck of TBR, a game of TBR video for March. However, if you've seen the vlog for this weekend when I'm filming it, you'll know that I've read 3 books that were already on that TBR and finished them before the end of March. So I'm just going to include them at end of February, and I'm just going to include them in this wrap up. So we have on the Kindle, we have Bloodlines by Richelle Mead. I rated this one 4 stars. It was fine. I mean, I read it fairly quickly. It is set in the Vampire Academy world, so we do see some of the returning characters. We see Adrian, we see Rose, and Jill. Now, Jill is Lisa's illegitimate half-sister, and through the events that happen towards the end of Vampire Academy, Jill becomes a main character in her own right in the Bloodlines series, but it is mainly following the alchemists. We follow Sydney, so it was interesting to see how this shadowy organisation fits within the human world, because these alchemists are primarily mortal, they are human, and then how they interact with the shadowy world of the Morai and the Strigoi. So that was an interesting one, and there were hints at Sydney being more than something, but there was just, like I say, I did enjoy it. I rated it 4 stars, but I don't think I'm going to be continuing on with the series. Now, that's not the book's fault. I think it's more me maturing out of certain school settings, because there were times where Sydney just, I couldn't get a proper read on her. She's 18, 19, I think. So they get sent So the basic premise of this book is that Jill is in danger, and because of Maroi law, Lyssa can only hold the crown of... I'm just going to spoil you for the end of Vampire Academies here. But because of Maroi law, Lyssa can only hold the crown as long as she has at least one family member supporting her. So the Maroi outsiders, the people who don't want Lyssa to be in charge, they have figured out that if they take Jill, who is admittedly a little bit less protected at this point than Lyssa, they can remove Lyssa from the throne that way. So Sydney, as an alchemist, has been brought in to help that, but there is another underlying plot, which is more of a mystery, which I think is going to be more of the backbone for the rest of the series, because the alchemists and the Maroi leaders have decided that it would be best to put Jill and... I've forgotten the guy's name already. Rose's best friend from the series. Eddie? I'm going to call him Eddie. They've decided to put Eddie, Jill and Sydney into a boarding school. Surround them with people their own age, get them used to a routine in... I think it was Arizona. It was somewhere hot and warm where vampires don't tend to congregate because it's hot and warm and daylight. So there's that, but there is something going on with with Sydney's alchemist boss, and I've forgotten his name as well. Oh, I'm terrible. But there's something going on there that ties into this mystery of the school, because a lot of the school itself has a rule where there are no tattoos. Obviously, Sydney blurs the line with that a little bit as well, which did take a bit of the logic away. But Sydney, obviously, as all alchemists do, has a face tattoo, which is imbued with certain talents. The Maroi blood gives her a heightened immune system, and also has a compulsion against it. Compulsion against her speaking out about the alchemists and vampires to humans who aren't already in the know. But there's an underlying plot where these... There's an underlying plot where these characters in the school have these tattoos that are heightening certain abilities and causing them to have fits, and obviously it's illegal in the alchemist world. So there's that mystery of who's doing that and why, and how Sydney can stop that. But there was something that about this that just didn't need to be included, I don't think. Sydney speaks as an extra credit project. Sydney gets involved as being a research assistant for her ancient histories teacher, and there's a bit of weird magic going on, and it just, in my opinion, it just didn't need to be there. So that one got a 4 stars, and I'm on the fence as to whether I should continue the series or not. So let me know in the comments below. So then we have The Wicked King by Holly Black. And now this is the sequel to The Cruel Prince. It's the second... It's the second in the Folk of the Air trilogy. And I gave this one a 4 star as well. Now this was quite a low 4 star, because while I enjoyed it, I don't think it's going to be a favourite. It was okay. I mean, obviously it's a sequel, so I can't go into too much detail for spoilers. But I said this when I was speaking about Cruel Prince in a vlog. I don't get the relationship between Carden and Jude. Maybe something will happen in the Queen of Nothing, which will make me change my mind, but I don't get that romance. I'm reading this purely because I like Jude as a character. I like the world. I like the writing. I think J.D. Ray Reid's described it best. She calls this a junk food series. You know it's going to be bad, but you enjoy it while you read it. So yeah, 4 stars for that one, and I am intrigued to finish off the series. I do want to see what happens in Queen of Nothing, and I do also have the Modern Fairy Tales collection from Holly Black, which is set in the same world as Folk of the Air, just before the events of this trilogy. And then we have Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Now this one I rated 3 stars. Now for me, a 3-star isn't a bad read. I just don't think that Naomi Novik is an author that I particularly would call a favourite, because I have a thing where if anything comes my way book-wise, I will read it. I will give it a try. I loved the world of this. I loved the idea that this school was trying to kill its students, and that you had these monsters that were drawn to the magic. I love the magic system where you have your mana, which is where you organically grow and store the energy used to cast spells, and then you have your Malia, which is what you steal or cheat. So I did enjoy that aspect of it. I enjoyed our main character, Elle. I forgot her name there. I did enjoy her in certain aspects, but there's just something about Naomi Novik's writing where I get bored. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so this has happened. What's going to happen next? When is the plot going to start? When's it going to get going? So for that reason, I did rate this one a 3. Yeah. So I rated this one 3 stars. I mean, it's not, as a standalone, it doesn't work, but it is the first in a series. So as a first in a series, it does set up nicely. There is room for the characters and the world and the story to expand, and I probably will give it a try. But I don't think Naomi Novik is going to be a favourite of mine. I do want to read Uprooted, because I know everybody says that seems to be the general favourite of her works, and I do want to try her Temeraire series, because dragons. And if any author writes dragons, I will tend to give them a go more than one who doesn't. And I think for Naomi Novik's writing, I do think adult is better. I think she might be suited better to adult work rather than YA, because it left me wanting something to happen in not a positive way. So let me know what you've been reading in the comments below, and we'll have a bit of a chat, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.